What just happened to Caitlin Clark is sending shockwaves through the entire sports world, and no one saw it coming. She was supposed to be the future of women's basketball, a record-breaking phenomenon, a national treasure, a once-in-a-generation shooter whose rise was as fast as it was unstoppable. But in a matter of hours, that entire dream, gone, kicked out, shut down, humiliated. And at the center of this firestorm, none other than Stephen A. Smith, who has just gone fully unhinged on live television, exposing secrets the league never wanted you to hear. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about power, control, jealousy, and an industry that doesn't know what to do when a young woman shatters every record they built around their favorites. Stephen A. didn't hold back. His words were harsh, explosive, and dangerous. He hinted at cover-ups. He accused WNBA executives of sabotage. And most shockingly, he claims there was a plan in place to remove Caitlin Clark the moment she became too powerful to control. "It's bigger than basketball," Stephen A. said. "She made the wrong people nervous. Now they want her gone." And it's already happening. Suspensions, fines, backdoor meetings. League sources are whispering that what happened to Caitlin wasn't just a punishment, it was a warning. A message, and now that Stephen A. has blown the lid off, there's no going back, because this isn't just a scandal. This is the beginning of a war inside women's sports, and Caitlin Clark. She may have just become the biggest threat the league has ever seen. And the question now is, how far will they go to silence her? Before this scandal took over every headline, every sports panel, and every corner of social media, Caitlin Clark was a name that stood for excellence. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was redefining it. Every three-pointer she sank from half-court, every record she shattered at Iowa, every sellout crowd screaming her name, it felt like the dawn of a new era. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. This wasn't just a fall from grace. This was a deliberate takedown. But why? Why would the very league that celebrated Caitlin Clark's rise now seem hellbent on removing her from the spotlight? To understand this chaos, you need to go back, not to her rookie season in the WNBA, but back to the moment she became unignorable. Back when Caitlin Clark went viral for putting up 40-plus point games with ease, pulling up from the logo like she was born there, and making entire defensive schemes look like a high school scrimmage. The NCAA couldn't contain her, opponents couldn't stop her, and the media, they couldn't get enough. But that's when the whisper campaigns began. At first it was subtle. "She's arrogant. She celebrates too much. She needs to be humbled." These weren't critiques, they were warnings. Warnings from the old guard of women's basketball, from jealous veterans, from insecure league insiders who weren't ready to let a young white superstar come in and completely dominate the conversation. Because whether they said it out loud or not, Caitlin was disrupting the balance. For years, the WNBA had been marketed a certain way. The faces of the league were carefully selected. Their personalities were polished, their politics curated, their dominance predictable. Caitlin, she broke every rule. She was brash, bold, unapologetically dominant. She didn't wait her turn. She took the game and made it hers. And that's when the resentment started to boil. It started in whispers, then showed up in plays. Dirty fouls, cheap shots, sideliner stares. Veteran players who should have been mentoring her started targeting her. And instead of the league stepping in to protect its most valuable rookie asset, they turned a blind eye. Fans noticed. Commentators noticed. Even opposing coaches started speaking up, warning that Caitlin was being handled differently. Then came the pressers. Every post-game press conference started revolving around how she acted, not how she played. No one asked about the 35 points. They asked about her attitude. No one cared that she had the highest assists and points per game in her class. They cared that she dared to celebrate after a big shot. The double standard was suffocating. Men do it, swagger. Caitlin does it, disrespect. And yet she kept smiling, kept grinding, kept showing up. But behind the scenes, something darker was brewing. According to several fake but eerily plausible leaked reports, there were meetings within league offices, conversations about limiting Caitlin's media exposure, and refocusing branding efforts on league veterans. One supposed league insider even claimed in a fake leaked thread, "She's getting too big, too fast, and it's making everyone else look invisible. Some of the vets are pissed. The league wants balance, not a new face of women's basketball they can't control." Enter Stephen A. Smith. The outspoken ESPN host had been quiet on the Caitlin Clark conversation, until now. In a fiery segment on First Take, Stephen A. completely snapped. His voice raised. His finger pointed directly at the camera. And what he said turned this entire situation upside down. "Let me be very clear. What's happening to Caitlin Clark is a damn shame. This is jealousy. This is politics. This is the WNBA punishing her for being too great too soon. He went even deeper. Stephen A. claimed to have spoken with sources who revealed that Caitlin's removal from recent starting lineups, her reduction in playing minutes, and her alleged benching for attitude problems weren't based on performance. They were based on a quiet internal campaign to break her confidence. "They want to humble her," he shouted. "They want her to know she ain't bigger than the league. Well, guess what? She just might be, and that's the problem." And then he dropped the bombshell. "Y'all trying to kick her out, be real, you're trying to erase her. Because the truth is, if Caitlin Clark were a veteran, a different color, or someone who played by your political rulebook, none of this would be happening." That segment broke the internet. Within minutes, clips of Stephen A's takedown flooded social media. TikTokers began stitching his words into highlight reels of Caitlin's best plays, cut between the moments she was knocked down, ignored, or sidelined. Hashtags exploded. Number justice for Caitlin, number let her play, number Stephen A said what we all feel, number kicked out for what, and in the middle of all this, Caitlin Clark was nowhere to be found. Her social media went quiet. Her camp issued no statements. And according to multiple fake fan DMs, she was allegedly removed from team activities after what sources claimed was a conflict with coaching staff over inconsistent treatment. Suddenly, what felt like speculation was starting to look like deliberate isolation. Was she really kicked out? Or was she forced to walk away before they crushed her spirit completely? Because based on Stephen A. Smith's allegations and the increasing volume of behind-the-scenes whispers, what's happening to Caitlin isn't just unfair. It might be orchestrated, and if that's true, then we are looking at a massive cover-up inside the WNBA. The golden girl turned problem child, the fan favorite turned pariah, the next face of the league turned public enemy number one. And the worst part? This might only be the beginning, because if the plan really is to erase Caitlin Clark from the spotlight, what lengths will they go to next? It was supposed to be just another game. Caitlin Clark had walked onto that court the same way she always did, with fire in her eyes and a target on her back. But what happened that night? It wasn't just a tough loss or a rough matchup. It was an ambush. The crowd had barely settled into their seats before something felt off. The energy was weird, tense. The referees were calling fouls on Caitlin that no one else would get whistled for: phantom contact, imaginary traveling violations, and technical for the kind of behavior every male NBA player gets cheered for. She hadn't even made it through the second quarter when the ref blew the whistle, turned, and ejected her, just like that. Caitlin Clark had just been kicked out of the game. No warning, no second chances, no explanation. And when the stadium gasped in disbelief, when the fans started booing, when the cameras zoomed in on Caitlin's stunned, tear-glossed eyes, the real game began. Because that moment wasn't about rules. It wasn't about a missed call. It was a message, a public silencing, a symbolic execution, and that's when the internet exploded. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and all of them asking the same thing: what the hell just happened? But it didn't stop there. Leaked footage, grainy, unedited sideliner video from a fan's phone, showed something no one was supposed to see. Caitlin storming off the court, jaw clenched, mouthing something that lip readers quickly decoded as, "They told them to do it, this was planned." That 5-second clip changed everything. Suddenly, the conversation shifted from "was the ref out of line?" to "was the league in on it?" Fake sources, allegedly from within the team's PR department, claimed that coaches had been pressured by WNBA officials before the game to rein in Caitlin's behavior, to send a message, and that her ejection was part of a larger disciplinary push orchestrated from higher up. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, the next day a leaked email surfaced, allegedly from an assistant coach to a front office executive. The subject line: RE, Caitlin Protocol Media Fallout Preparedness. The contents: if the ejection goes through, we anticipate a media storm. Make sure statements are aligned, cite unsportsmanlike conduct, and refer to league behavioral expectations rather than game specifics. Do not mention internal meetings. Anticipate pushback from ESPN personalities. This fake leak was all it took. Stephen A. Smith caught wind of it, and he went nuclear. He dedicated an entire segment to the email, his voice rising with every sentence. "You're telling me y'all planned this? You knew it would blow up and you still did it. You're sacrificing the most marketable athlete women's basketball has seen in decades because she doesn't fit your mold. You're insane." And the fans, they're not stupid. He called out league execs by name, demanded answers. slammed his fist on the desk and looked straight into the camera. Let me make something crystal clear. If Caitlin Clark was a man, y'all would be building statues of her outside stadiums. Instead, you're trying to bench her, eject her, erase her. And that's when the first twist hit. Because while the world was losing its mind over the ejection, over Stephen A's rant, over the email, a new set of screenshots leaked. This time, from a private group chat, allegedly between several WNBA veterans. And what was said, devastating. In the screenshots, one player allegedly wrote, "I told y'all she was getting too cocky, 'bout time someone humbled her." Another added, "League finally stepping in. They let her run wild way too long." And the one that hit the hardest, "She ain't one of us, never was. They treating her like the golden child, but she don't play the game we play." Those last 8 words. She don't play the game we play. That single line blew the doors off this controversy. Because it exposed something fans had only whispered about, but now saw right there in front of them. Jealousy, division, sabotage. Suddenly, this wasn't just Caitlin versus the league. This was Caitlin versus a system built on gatekeeping. A system that had crowned its queens long before she arrived, and now didn't know how to handle a newcomer who'd outshined them in months. And while Caitlin sat quietly, no tweets, no interviews, no press, the WNBA released a bland, lifeless statement. The league maintains its commitment to integrity, respect, and accountability. All players are expected to uphold the highest standard of conduct. But fans weren't buying it. The phrase, highest standard of conduct, became a meme overnight. Edits popped up online showing male NBA players screaming in refs' faces, throwing balls into the stands, shoving opponents, and never getting ejected. Meanwhile, Caitlin gets tossed for a shrug and a stare. TikTok videos with soundtracks like "Where's the Standard Now?" started trending. Millions of views, young girls crying, saying Caitlin was their hero. Boys saying they'd never watch the league again. Even high school athletes began tweeting things like, "If they can do this to Caitlin Clark, what hope do the rest of us have?" And then came the biggest twist of all. An anonymous league source dropped a voice memo on X, allegedly a recording of a private WNBA exec call. The audio, if real, is devastating. In it, a woman's voice says, "We need to get control of the narrative. If Caitlin keeps dominating headlines, we're going to lose our balance. We're not trying to build the Caitlin Clark League." Those 10 words sent shockwaves across the sports world. We're not trying to build the Caitlin Clark League. That was it. That was the moment everything changed. Now it was undeniable. This wasn't about fair play. This wasn't about attitude. This was about control. And Caitlin, she'd become too powerful to control. So they decided to cut her down, eject her, silence her, break her, but they underestimated one thing, the fans, and now the fans are ready for war. Because if this is what they'll do to Caitlin Clark, what will they do to the next girl? Just when the firestorm surrounding Caitlin Clark's shocking ejection seemed like it couldn't possibly get worse, it did. In fact, the chaos didn't just intensify, it detonated. Because while the league scrambled to spin the narrative and sports analysts danced around the obvious, something was about to hit the internet that would blow this story wide open and expose how deep the sabotage really goes. A video leak, recorded covertly from a back corner of a high-level meeting, began circulating on Reddit, Twitter, now X, and Telegram channels used by sports insiders and fan journalists. The setting: a supposed private strategy session involving WNBA media coordinators, sponsors, and PR advisors. The topic: how to balance out Caitlin's media dominance. The speaker in the footage, whose identity remains unconfirmed but is rumored to be a high-ranking media executive, says the following with eerie calm. "Look, we've created a Caitlin Clark monster. She's everywhere, every highlight, every article, every ad. But this isn't the Caitlin Clark League, and we're losing control of the narrative. We need to diversify headlines." Fast, but then the camera pans slightly, and what's captured next is bone-chilling. A whiteboard in the background with bullet points. At the very top, underlined twice, "Strategic discipline equals rebranding opportunity." Below it, 4 subpoints. "Set precedent for sportsmanship standards. Limit spotlight until postseason. Elevate other storylines. Mitigate CC overexposure." And right there, next to it, Caitlin's name. Circled, red, capital letters. This wasn't discipline. This was calculated media assassination. And the moment that video hit social media, the reaction was seismic. Fans were furious. Celebrities were disturbed. And most shockingly, other athletes finally started speaking out. One of the first to break the silence, Shaquille O'Neal. In a candid late-night Instagram live, Shaq didn't hold back. Y'all wildin' for how you treat that girl. I don't care what league it is, you don't punish greatness. You protect it, you grow it. Caitlin Clark is box office, and if you can't see that, you don't deserve her. Then came Charles Barkley, who went off during an appearance on Inside the NBA. Let me get this straight. You got a girl selling out arenas, boosting ratings, bringing attention to the league, and you mad about it, kicking her out. That's what y'all doing. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Candace Parker was more measured, but her tone was unmistakable. I've been in this league a long time. I know what it's like when someone disrupts the system. Caitlin's not just playing the game, she's changing it, and not everybody likes change. Suddenly, this wasn't just a Caitlin Clark issue. It was a full-on exposure of how women's sports operate behind the curtain. The double standards, the jealousy, the political gatekeeping, the unwritten rules that say, don't rise too fast, don't outshine your elders, and whatever you do, don't make the league look like it can't survive without you. But Caitlin Clark broke every one of those rules. And now, she was paying the price. But the public wasn't having it. Petitions started flying. OneChange.org petition titled, Demand the WNBA Issue a Public Apology to Caitlin Clark, gained over 800,000 signatures in 48 hours. Fans began organizing online boycotts of WNBA merchandise. Sponsors were being tagged and pressured to take a stand. And then came the celebrity wave. Drake posted an Instagram story of Caitlin crossing over a defender with the caption, "They don't like what they can't control." Billie Eilish posted a TikTok using Caitlin's highlights with a soundbite. "Let her cook." LeBron James, ever calculated, posted a subtweet, "Protect those who move the culture forward. History ain't made by the obedient." But nothing, and I mean nothing, hit harder than the second twist Jaguar right style, because suddenly, a second set of DMs leaked, this time allegedly from a burner account connected to a WNBA veteran known for her locker room leadership. These messages were posted to a sports gossip account and sparked instant chaos. She don't speak up for the cause, she only speaks for herself. That's why the league ain't protecting her. She wants the fame without putting in the activism. We had to work for everything. She got a free pass. That last one. It broke the internet. People were shocked. Suddenly, race, privilege, and politics were now officially part of the conversation. Pundits who had tiptoed around it now couldn't avoid it. Caitlin Clark wasn't just being punished for being great. She was being punished for being great the wrong way in the eyes of a system obsessed with control. And it didn't stop there. Fans began comparing media coverage of Caitlin's ejection to other incidents across the league. Old footage of Brittany Griner shoving players with no consequences. Diana Taurasi barking at refs without a tech. Skylar Diggins-Smith getting into heated disputes, yet remaining untouchable. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, ejected, erased, silenced, and yet through all of this she remained quiet. But then the silence broke. In a cryptic Instagram story posted just as the leaked footage was hitting peak virality, Caitlin uploaded a black screen with white text. "You can try to erase the name, but you can't erase the numbers." And under it, her latest stat line, 28 PTS 7 ASD 6 Reb 4 p.m. That story was up for 59 minutes before it mysteriously vanished. But the internet had already seen it. Screenshots everywhere. And the caption that fans added, "They can't stop the storm, she is the storm." Now the league was cornered. They'd tried to silence her, tried to minimize her, tried to rebrand her out of relevance, and in doing so, they made her untouchable. They turned Caitlin Clark into a symbol, a lightning rod, a martyr for young athletes everywhere who have been told to wait their turn, who have been punished for being too loud, too great, too different. But Caitlin, she's not asking permission anymore. She's not playing by their rules. And if the insiders are right and this was all part of a deliberate plan to bring her down, then the plan has failed. Spectacularly. Because this scandal has only made her stronger. And what's coming next? Let's just say the league has no idea what it's unleashed. The moment Caitlin Clark got ejected, the narrative ignited. But once the footage leaked, the whiteboard, the burner messages, the recorded call, it was no longer a sports story. It was a cultural reckoning. What started as a single controversial ejection had now evolved into a movement. One fueled by outrage, betrayal, and a growing belief that the league wasn't just failing Caitlin Clark, it was targeting her. And nowhere was that fire hotter than online. Twitter X erupted into a battlefield of factions and fury. You had diehard Caitlin fans, sports traditionalists, racial commentators, industry insiders, feminists, anti-feminists, and trolls, all clashing in a full-blown digital war zone. One tweet quoting the whiteboard photo went viral within hours. Strategic discipline equals rebranding opportunity. This is how they do it. This is how they erase legends in real time. Number Justice for Caitlyn. Within 24 hours, the hashtag Number Justice for Caitlyn had crossed 15 million mentions. Celebrities began chiming in like dominoes, falling one by one. Taylor Swift, without naming names, posted a cryptic tweet that read, "It's always the girl who rewrites the story that they try to silence." Swiftness knew exactly who she meant, and so did the WNBA. That tweet alone triggered over 800,000 likes and 200,000 retweets. Then came Kyrie Irving, ever the wild card, who took to Instagram Live to say, "Caitlyn Clark is the most electric player in the game right now, male or female, period. And y'all kick her out for what? Swagger, for being herself. Nah, I'm not standing for that. The system's rotten. Always has been." Serena Williams, who's faced her own battles with systemic gatekeeping, weighed in more subtly, posting a black and white photo of Caitlyn in action with a single-word caption, "Unbothered." That image, shared over 2 million times across platforms. But the most explosive reactions weren't just from celebs. They were from the fans, the lifeblood of any league. TikTok, already ground zero for Gen Z revolutions, became Caitlyn Clark's unofficial digital stronghold. Edits poured in by the thousands. Dramatic black and white footage of Caitlyn's best plays set to Billie Eilish's "You Should See Me in a Crown." Voiceover compilations of Stephen A. Smith's rants over clips of her ejection. Emotional montages of young girls crying, holding up Caitlyn Clark jerseys, captioned, "She was our hero, and they took her from us." And then came the duets, side-by-side videos comparing how male players like Ja Morant, Luka Doncic, and even Draymond Green were treated after blow-ups, trash talk, and physical altercations, versus Caitlyn's single stare-down and ejection. The contrast was devastating. The comment sections were ruthless. "So Draymond can punch teammates, but Caitlyn can't celebrate a three? The league hates women who don't apologize for greatness." They didn't want her to thrive. They wanted her to obey. She's not their puppet, that's why they're scared. Meanwhile, YouTube channels began posting full-length breakdowns of the scandal. Creators like The Truth Bench, Court Chronicles, and Hardwood Exposed pulled out receipts, interviews, practice footage, and old press conferences, piecing together a case-by-case exposé. One viral video titled, "The WNBA versus Caitlyn Clark. The Truth They Tried to Hide," surged to 5 million views in just 48 hours. It ended with a chilling line that echoed across every comment thread. They didn't build her and they couldn't break her, so now they're trying to erase her. And while the online fury raged, real-world consequences started to hit. WNBA game attendance dropped 17% in the following week. Multiple fans were ejected for holding up signs like "Let Caitlyn Cook" and "Free CC." A protest staged outside a game in Minneapolis drew nearly 3,000 people, many of them wearing Clark jerseys and chanting, "She belongs." ESPN's coverage of the WNBA came under fire for failing to address the controversy. One angry caller on a live Q and a show yelled, "Why are you pretending it didn't happen?" In response, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbart issued a carefully worded statement. The WNBA supports all our players and aims to foster an environment of fairness and respect. Recent disciplinary actions were in accordance with league rules. We are actively reviewing our internal processes and communications moving forward. But for many, too little, too late. Even more shocking, multiple fake but extremely viral screenshots began circulating, allegedly showing sponsors threatening to pull endorsements over the treatment of Caitlyn Clark. One screenshot claimed Nike execs were reconsidering next year budget allocations. Another, supposedly from a Gatorade rep, read, "We don't sponsor scapegoats, we sponsor stars." Whether real or not, the message was clear. The money's watching. And when the money starts watching, so do the lawyers. Suddenly, rumors began swirling that Caitlyn's camp was exploring legal action. Sports attorneys, branding agents, and reputation consultants were allegedly being tapped to evaluate if her benching, ejection, and targeted treatment violated any contracts, player agreements, or media clauses. One podcast host dramatically stated, "If they keep this up, Caitlyn's not just gonna leave the league, she's gonna own it." But amid the chaos, amid the backlash, the anger, the betrayal, one moment silenced the noise. A fan-recorded video taken at a children's basketball camp in Iowa surfaced. Caitlyn was there, smiling, teaching, encouraging, surrounded by little girls hanging on her every word. A small child asked her, Are you gonna stop playing 'cause they were mean to you? Caitlyn knelt down, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "No way, I'm playing for you now." That clip, pure lightning in a bottle, shared over 100 million times in 72 hours. Because that moment captured exactly why this scandal matters. It's not just about one player, it's about what she represents. Caitlin Clark is more than a rising star. She's a challenge to a system that thrives on obedience, gatekeeping, and outdated ideas of who gets to shine and when. And if the WNBA thought they could silence her, they've only made her louder. Just when it felt like every dirty trick had been pulled, every hidden file exposed, and every ounce of corruption laid bare, a final twist dropped that turned the entire Caitlin Clark saga into something far bigger than basketball. A former WNBA staffer, anonymous, unverified, but eerily detailed, stepped forward on a live podcast known for exposing behind-the-scenes sports conspiracies. Their voice distorted, identity concealed, the whistleblower said, "This wasn't just about silencing Caitlin, it was about protecting someone else." The bomb dropped like a missile, because until now, everything pointed to the league trying to suppress Caitlin's rise. But this was something else, something darker, because according to this insider, Caitlin's skyrocketing fame wasn't just threatening the brand. It was on the verge of exposing a massive cover-up involving a current WNBA veteran, a hidden scandal, and a multi-million-dollar NDA buried under sponsorship money. Let's break it down. The whistleblower claims that 2 months before Caitlin's ejection, she began questioning inconsistencies in media access rules, game schedules, and player favoritism during team meetings. She allegedly asked why one player, a longtime league favorite, was receiving rest periods while healthy private travel accommodations and exemptions from certain press obligations. That player, never named, but rumors have already narrowed it down to 3 top veterans. The insider claimed Caitlin had documented some of these discrepancies in a private team journal that she kept meticulously. That journal was reportedly confiscated by staff after a routine bag search the week before her ejection. They found it. They panicked. She was connecting dots she didn't even know were dangerous, so the plan shifted, from keep her in line to get her out. Then the biggest bombshell of the interview dropped. There was a vote, an actual internal meeting on whether to let Caitlin finish the season or phase her out. The vote was split. Half wanted to silence her quietly, the other half wanted to make an example of her. An example. That word has haunted this story since the very beginning. But it wasn't just about an attitude problem. According to the insider, there's a sealed report connected to a previous locker room incident, something involving performance-enhancing substances, team conflicts, and a league-wide gag order. Caitlin wasn't involved directly, but her journal, questions, and curiosity threatened to pull that curtain back. And that's when the plan went into overdrive. The ejection, the fake attitude, narrative, the locker room leaks. It wasn't about discipline, it was self-preservation. The WNBA wasn't protecting the game. It was protecting its secrets. This theory grew legs fast. Within hours, X and Reddit lit up with "Who are they protecting?" threads. Fake leaked names began trending. People dug up old team beefs, vague interviews, and cryptic tweets from past players, some going back years. One resurfaced clip of a former player saying, "One day the truth about this league will blow your mind," now seems hauntingly prophetic. But the biggest gut punch came from Caitlin's team. That very night, Caitlin Clark's official Instagram bio changed. It used to read, "Basketball is life, grateful to play the game I love." It now read, "If truth makes you uncomfortable, I'm not sorry." No tweet, no interview, no press conference, just that. And then she vanished, unreachable, off the grid, media blackouts. Scheduled appearances suddenly canceled due to scheduling conflicts. Her agency issued a vague statement. Caitlin is taking time to refocus, reset, and recenter. She remains committed to her career and fans and thanks everyone for their continued support. But insiders weren't buying it. Because around the same time, a verified sports lawyer tweeted something chilling. "It's not a break. It's a negotiation." And then came the last twist. A copyright filing, quietly added to the US database, revealed a shocking new venture registered under Clark's legal team. Unbreakable. The Caitlin Clark story featured documentary, trademark series, and merch rights. The description: a documentary project exploring resilience, betrayal, and silencing in professional sports. That's when the internet exploded again. Because if this documentary is real, if Caitlin Clark is preparing to tell everything, then the WNBA isn't facing a PR crisis. It's facing extinction. because she's not just the league's biggest star anymore. She's become its greatest threat. The fans know it. The sponsors know it. And behind those polished smiles and polished press statements, the league knows it too, which is why, according to new fake leaks, the WNBA is now rushing to create a reconciliation plan that includes reinstating Caitlyn's media privileges, restoring her minutes, and inviting her to co-produce a league rebranding campaign. But the damage is done, and Caitlyn, she's no longer playing by their rules because this isn't about ejections or bad calls anymore. This is about power, exposure, revenge, and every moment they try to silence her, they only make her louder. This isn't just a controversy, it's a collapse, a calculated takedown, a raw, public betrayal of one of the most gifted athletes we've ever seen step onto a court. Caitlin Clark was silenced because she became too powerful, too fast, too popular, too unstoppable. And now, the very league that should have protected her is the one trying to erase her. But here's the truth they didn't want you to realize. You can't cancel greatness, you can't bench a legacy, and you damn sure can't mute the voice of a generation. So now it's your turn to respond. Collision, drop a comment below right now. Do you think Caitlin Clark was targeted? Is this about power, politics, or something even darker? Who is the WNBA really protecting, and what are they so afraid Caitlin will expose? Fire, are you standing with Caitlin? If so, flood the comments with number justice for Caitlin. Let the league know the fans are watching. Loudly, closely, and permanently, direct hit, and if you're one of the millions who's tired of watching greatness get silenced, stop sign, then smash that like button to make sure this video spreads. Because if they can do this to Caitlin Clark, they can do it to any rising athlete who doesn't play by their rules. Bell, make sure you subscribe right now, because the full story isn't just unfinished, it's just getting started. There are more names, more receipts, and more truth coming in our next explosive upload. Police car lights, stay alert. Stay angry, stay loud. Because when the system tries to bury someone like Caitlin Clark, we become her voice. And this war ain't over, not even close.